Cleopatra VII Philopator was born in 69 BCE into a ruling house that no longer trusted its own stability. The Ptolemaic dynasty had governed Egypt for nearly 300 years, yet it remained a foreign elite, Greek in language, custom, and power structure, ruling one of the most ancient and symbolically charged lands in the Mediterranean. Egypt was not weak, but it was exposed. Its grain-fed cities far beyond its borders. Its wealth attracted intervention. By the time Cleopatra was born, survival for an Egyptian ruler no longer depended solely on internal order, but on external restraint. Egypt's monarchy ruled absolutely in theory, yet cautiously in practice. Authority depended on a narrow administrative class, military loyalty, and continuous revenue from agriculture. The Nile made Egypt rich, but that same richness made it vulnerable. Rome, expanding through conquest and civil war, had come to rely on Egyptian grain. Egypt remained formally independent, but its rulers governed with Roman expectations always present, and Roman intervention always possible. Cleopatra's father, Ptolemy XII, ruled under this pressure. His reign was unstable, marked by debt, revolt, and dependence on Roman force. When he was driven from Alexandria, he regained his throne only through Roman arms, at enormous financial cost. These debts did not disappear. They shaped the limits of authority Cleopatra would later inherit. Power in Egypt was no longer self-contained. It was conditional. Cleopatra was educated for that reality. Ancient sources suggest she received training uncommon even among royalty: philosophy, rhetoric, astronomy, and statecraft. She also learned Egyptian, the language of the majority she ruled. This was not cultural assimilation. It was political access. In a kingdom where legitimacy was fragile, communication itself was a tool of governance. When Ptolemy XII died in 51 BCE, Cleopatra ascended the throne alongside her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. The arrangement followed dynastic custom, but such shared rule rarely endured. Cleopatra moved quickly to assert authority. Coins bore her image alone. Official documents named her first. These were not gestures of vanity, but signals of control in a system where perception mattered. Resistance formed just as quickly. Court officials aligned with Ptolemy XIII moved against her. Within 3 years, Cleopatra was forced out of Alexandria and into exile in Syria. There, she did what displaced rulers in the eastern Mediterranean had long done. She gathered money, mercenaries, and allies, preparing not for revenge, but for restoration. In Ptolemaic Egypt, authority was something reclaimed through force and recognition, not moral appeal. At the same moment, Rome's internal conflict spilled into Egypt. Julius Caesar, pursuing his rival Pompey, arrived in Alexandria in 48 BCE. Pompey was killed upon landing by advisors to Ptolemy XIII, who believed the act would secure Roman favor. Instead, it drew Rome directly into Egypt's dynastic struggle. Cleopatra understood what this meant. Roman presence transformed a family dispute into an international decision. Cleopatra sought Caesar not as a romantic figure, but as a political authority capable of deciding Egypt's future. Ancient sources describe a dramatic meeting, though details vary and were recorded long after the fact. What is clear is the outcome. Caesar backed Cleopatra's claim. His decision was strategic. Egypt required a stable ruler. Cleopatra offered continuity, administrative competence, and cooperation. The fighting that followed was costly. Alexandria saw street battles, fires, and shortages. Ptolemy XIII died during the conflict, and Cleopatra was restored to the throne. Formally, she ruled alongside another younger brother, Ptolemy XIV, but effective authority rested with her. Egypt remained independent in name, yet Roman influence now framed every decision. Cleopatra's alliance with Caesar produced a son, later known as Caesarion. Cleopatra presented him as Caesar's heir, a claim that carried meaning in Egypt even if it held no legal weight in Rome. It was a statement about continuity, about a future in which Egyptian monarchy and Roman power might align rather than collide. After Caesar's assassination in 44 BCE, the balance shifted again. Cleopatra returned to Egypt, removed Ptolemy XIV from power, and elevated Caesarion as her co-ruler. These actions were swift and decisive. In a world of unstable succession, hesitation invited collapse. Authority survived through control, not consensus. Rome fractured once more. Mark Antony emerged as the dominant figure in the eastern Mediterranean and summoned Cleopatra to meet him in 41 BCE. He needed resources. She needed recognition. Their alliance followed the same logic that had shaped her relationship with Caesar. Egypt supplied money, ships, and grain. In return, Cleopatra's rule was confirmed and her territory expanded. Their partnership went beyond diplomacy. Together, they attempted to stabilize the eastern provinces through personal authority backed by military power. Cleopatra governed Egypt through established bureaucratic systems, taxation, land surveys, grain storage, while also reinforcing religious legitimacy. She presented herself as the embodiment of Isis, aligning royal authority with divine order. This was governance through continuity, not innovation. The costs were real. Taxes remained high. Grain shipments to Rome continued even during shortages. Stability was maintained through ritual, administration, and enforcement rather than reform. Cleopatra's success lay in preservation. Egypt functioned. Revenues flowed. Order held. Tension became visible in 34 BCE during the public distribution of territories known as the Donations of Alexandria. Cleopatra and her children were presented as rulers of eastern lands. This was not rebellion but assertion, a vision of shared authority between Rome and a dynastic East. In Rome, it was received as a challenge. Octavian, Caesar's adopted heir, reframed the conflict. It was no longer a civil war, but a struggle between Roman order and foreign influence. Cleopatra became the symbol of that threat. The war that followed was shaped less by personality than by structure. Rome could not tolerate an alternative center of legitimacy. The decisive defeat came in 31 BCE at Actium. Antony and Cleopatra's forces withdrew, their alliance unable to survive unified Roman opposition. The following year, Octavian invaded Egypt. Antony died. Cleopatra followed, choosing death over capture. Ancient accounts differ on the method. The meaning is clear. She refused to be displayed as a defeated ruler. With Cleopatra's death, Egypt lost its last monarch. It became a Roman province, governed directly by imperial authority. As grain fed Rome, its wealth was absorbed. Caesarion was executed. The system Cleopatra had navigated, balancing autonomy with dependency, ceased to exist. What endured was the lesson. Cleopatra's rule was not defined by romance or spectacle, but by constraint. She governed a state caught between ancient kingship and emerging empire. Her authority functioned through administration, alliance, and legitimacy. When those supports failed, her power ended. Her life marks a transition, not a tragedy. Through Cleopatra, the ancient Mediterranean reveals how power actually worked, how it was maintained, challenged, and ultimately replaced. Her world did not fall because she misunderstood it, but because it was changing faster than any ruler could control.